Hey everybody, welcome to our hangout on how to become an entrepreneur. Are you ready to become an entrepreneur? We have an awesome guest with us today, Nellie Akalp. If I said that right, I'm hoping. Sorry if I didn't. But Nellie's with CorpNet, pretty awesome company. If you're looking to start a business, they're a very reliable, affordable, and really convenient way to start your business. They'll make sure you're in good standing and in corporate compliance. And Nellie, I'll let you speak a little bit more to that once I hand it over to you for introductions. But hopefully I got all that right. From what I've seen, you guys make it pretty simple to get everything going and make the paperwork side of things pretty smooth. A couple things before we get going. We have Nellie's team from CorpNet in the comments area.
Hey everybody, welcome to our
If you have
hangout
any questions or issues or anything like that, sorry about the double feedback there. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, throw it into the comments, and Nellie's team will take care of that for you guys and reply. We're also going to be answering some of the questions live on air here and covering some topics just on entrepreneurship and how to get everything going. So with that, Nellie, I'll let you introduce yourself and take it from there.
Thank you, Colby. It's great to be here. Hi, world. I'm really excited to be joining this GoDaddy Google Hangout. A little bit about myself. Again, as Colby mentioned, my name is Nellie Akalp. I'm a mother.
Oh, I'm not sure if we lost her there or if she's still going.
For me, and owning my own small business is the most gratifying, most exciting part of my life. I love dealing with small business. I love empowering, inspiring other small business owners and startups in making their small business dreams into a reality. Currently, as CEO of CorpNet.com, I lead a team of over 10 people here. CorpNet provides document filing services required for a variety of business needs for new and existing business owners, whether it be setting up a sole proprietorship or a partnership, forming a corporation or an LLC, or for those of you who are already own a business, we help you keep that business in compliance.
Awesome. So, it looks like we might have lost her there, some internet connection. So we'll give her a minute to get back on air. Sorry about that, folks. But while we're waiting, if you have any questions on CorpNet, like I said, feel free to post them in there, and Nellie should be back on in a moment here. Hey, Nellie, you're back with us?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. We can hear you. You lost your lower third, but no worries. If you want to upload that again, you can. If not, we'll get going. So just so everybody can see, I'm going to put up the slide to just show you a little bit more about Nellie. CorpNet CEO and co-founder. She's a mom of 4, which I didn't actually realize until just now. I don't know how we didn't bring that up in conversation before. Sorry about that.
We're all good.
And her first business was acquired by Intuit, a company that GoDaddy's pretty familiar with. And yeah, so we're back. Let's go on over here. So Nellie, let's take a look here. So you started your own business, and I see you have some yes and no's on how you succeeded. What have you found most rewarding about starting a business? What was a challenge, and with that, why start CorpNet?
Well, let me take you back a little bit, Colby. I've been an entrepreneur since 1997 when my husband and I started our first company back from our 1-bedroom apartment. And we grew that business to where we were doing a substantially amount of sales. And in 2005, we were approached by Intuit, the makers of Quicken and QuickBooks, whereby they wanted to acquire us. And frankly, the offer was too good to pass. And in 2005, we were acquired for a substantial amount of money, $20 million. Oh, wow. And at that time, after we were acquired, we really didn't know that we were going to be retiring or stepping out of our previous company. But once the acquisition took place, for us, it really lost its entrepreneurial spirit and the culture we had created in our previous company. And it was all about entrepreneurship, innovation, creation, really being part of a bigger dream, and making things happen. And it soon lost that for us. So we decided to take some time off, focus on our then 3 growing children, and soon realized that retirement wasn't in the cards for us. We were too bored, too passionate, and too active to retire at such an early age. So in 2009, we decided to start all over again, and we came out with CorpNet.com. And I have to tell you, it's a whole different ball game than in 1997. And I have more gray hairs starting and growing CorpNet than I ever did with my first company.
Oh, what's some differences between 97 and nowadays when you were starting the business?
That's a great question. So in 1997, when we came out with our first company, our industry wasn't really saturated. There were really maybe 2 or 3 big players out there, and we put a one-page website up, and it was really at the birth stage of the internet itself. So I mean, I have to kind of tell you, we had to purchase a domain name for $100, okay? And fast forward to now, I mean, how much are domain names? Real cool domain names. You got to pay upwards of $25,000, $30,000, $60,000 to get a good domain name. So we actually wrote a check to Sky Dayton off of Earthlink, and my husband would literally call Sky every day. Did you get the check? Did you get the check? And so we purchased our domain name with that $100. And back then it was a whole different platform. Economy was great. The internet was at its birth. You put up a one-page website, and you were immediately indexed. There wasn't any Google, So, we were dealing with Excite and Lycos and all those other search engines. And then fast forward right now to 2009, when we started CorpNet, it was different. We started this company at the height of the economic recession, There was hundreds of thousands of players in our industry, and we started back in an industry in 2009 that had become very saturated, and actually our services are kind of a commodity. And we started where now I'm competing with my old company, other big players, and a huge player who owns the majority of the market share. So I had to be really creative as to how I wanted to start and how I wanted to enter the market. And we came during a time which was now the birth of the whole social media era. Yeah. So I decided to niche out and come out with a huge social media angle. And here we are today.
That's awesome. So a couple things from that. You mentioned the height of the economic recession. I imagine that would have been a concern of yours. Is that something that you really thought about when starting the business? Did you almost hold it off because of that until everything kind of stabled out a little bit more, or?
No, actually, it motivated me even more to want to start, because why I really started CorpNet was because in the 3 years that I was off, I really, was considering getting into other lines of businesses. I started a clothing line company. It was a tie-dye apparel company where I would actually paint, clothing and sell it out of the back of my S500 Mercedes. Believe it or not, I kid you not. And I would sell these T-shirts to moms, soccer moms, football moms. I would make batches of clothes for football teams. My kids are heavily involved in sports. So, it was very exciting for me, but again, not as exciting as running a business and helping other people making their small business dreams into a reality. And most oftentimes I would find myself sitting at my friends' businesses and trying to assist them in growing their small business. So when my non-compete ran out in 2009, I looked at the market, I looked at our industry, and I saw that, nobody was really providing that service catering to what really the client's needs are. And it was just all about, providing a free service and, not really catering and packaging the product or service to what actually the client needs. And I decided to come out with CorpNet, taking an angle as to providing great content out there, and really designing a package model to providing excellent service, but really this personalized service in helping clients start, protect, and manage their businesses.
That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely understand the need to focus on clients. That's something that we're very passionate over here about as well. That's great. Some good background there.
Yeah, and I mean, to add to that, with this whole zero moment of truth, I mean, now we're in an era where right now clients are more reluctant to do business with any service provider unless they're looking at what other people are saying about them. So, it's really important to, get great customer raves and reviews about your company and really engage out there in the community, and oftentimes people like it when they see who's behind the company. So the other thing that I did differently in coming out with CorpNet was that people knew who I was, and I really branded myself as a small business expert and also the founder and CEO of CorpNet.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. With the new social media age and online reviews, companies I feel have to be a lot more transparent and honest with their customers. And if something goes wrong back in the day, if somebody might tell a friend or 10 friends about an issue, now with social media they have the power to tell tens of thousands of people.
And it takes one bad review. It takes one bad review.
Absolutely. Well, we have some questions, or not some questions, but some key points I believe you wanted to bring to the audience. If people are getting ready to take the leap to start their own business, become an entrepreneur, are you ready? And here's some questions to ask yourself. I believe, Nelly, you have some of the ones that people should really think about before starting.
Yeah, so, you've got this kick-ass idea, you're tired of taking orders from someone else. Maybe 2014 or 2015 is your year to start your own business, but before you quit that 9-to-5 job, you really have to question yourself as to, do you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? And today, the topics that I want to bring up and have you really ask yourself is, do you need motivation and guidance from others? Listen, when you work for another company or corporation, you get to just punch in a time clock, and you're given orders, you're delegated projects, and you have to just do them right. And at the end of the day, clock out and go home, and you don't have to worry about all the stress of running your own business. Well, in running your own business and owning your own business, you need to be able to work on your own. That motivation and guidance has to come from within. And that passion, that drive, that determination has to come from within. And you have to have a vision and roadmap to know where you're going.
Yeah. Plus, like you mentioned, with the corporate atmosphere, excuse me, tongue tie there, you have that sense of security. Like we get employee benefits, overtime, paid vacation in some cases, all sorts of different things like that, or things to consider that you might not have when you're starting your own business.
Absolutely, and believe it or not, with our business, we didn't have any of that when we started here. And when we started hiring employees, we would tell them that, you know what, we're a startup. If you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself, then this is the place to be. But if you need guidance, if you need motivation, if you need to be micromanaged, this is not the place to be. Because as a small business owner, I have so much to do on my own where I can lead a team, I can empower a team, I can inspire, but I can't micromanage a team. So the type of person, the employee who's going to want to work for a startup actually in essence has a lot of entrepreneurship in them as well.
That's awesome. So are there any other main points or questions that people should really look and ask themselves?
Yeah, so the second question I would ask myself, Colby, or you should ask yourself, is can you tolerate risk? Do you have the stomach for unknown? Listen, I've been running CorpNet for 5 years. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary in July 1st, and frankly, it's been a tough ride for us. As I mentioned before, we started in an era which was at the height of the economic recession, and risk is everything. As an entrepreneur, you have to fail before you can succeed. So if you're thinking about starting a business to become an overnight millionaire just because you want to become an overnight millionaire, I can guarantee you 99% out of 100 times you're going to fail, okay? But if you really believe in that product or service that you're about to embark on, and if you have that vision, if you're passionate about it, and if you love it, and if you believe in it, and if you think it's going to make a change in another person's life, then I would take that risk. What are you waiting for? I mean, the worst thing that can happen to you is it can flop. But if you don't take that risk, you'll never know, okay? And who knows, it may be a billion-dollar success. But the bottom line is, as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to have the stomach and tolerance for risk, and to be able to face the unknown, and to be able to pivot anytime you need to.
Awesome. And then just to backtrack a little bit here, we had a question from Christina GC, and she wanted to know, when you mentioned your social media strategy when you started CorpNet, what really was involved in that? What did you do on social media to kick that going, and what did you find as a success? I'm going to add to it. And what did you find didn't work?
So, with social media, when I decided to take the social media angle, when I really didn't know what social media was, and I swear this when I say this, I would look at people and go, yes, you need to get on Facebook and Twitter. And I'm like, okay, when should I be tweeting out what flavor of ice cream I'm having, or excuse my language, but when I'm going to go to the restroom or to take a potty break with my kids? And they're like, no, you need to be engaging. So then I had to find the right balance between self-promotion and, sharing personal information. But soon after, really, really reading about it, doing a lot of self-study, I realized that, social media for us worked because I had all this knowledge and great content that I could share with others that really didn't know much about starting a business, protecting their business, managing their business. So what I started out doing was, number one, obviously, I set up my own Google account, my Google Plus account, my Facebook, my Twitter. I set up an account on YouTube, and I set up an account on LinkedIn, and I started just engaging with people, like-minded individuals, people who knew more than me, and just started engaging with them, telling them about our company, and just putting great content out there. I started pitching myself out to outlets that had a niche for small businesses and had audience who were interested in setting up a small business or wanted to know more about how to run a small business, how to start a small business. And I just started writing and sharing a ton of content. I created videos as to how to form a corporation or an LLC, which state to incorporate in. And I started sharing all this content without really being self-promotional about it. Because what I found out is that when you're self-promotional, people don't listen to you. People don't want to engage with you. But when you're really doing it just truly from the standpoint of wanting to help somebody and just share your knowledge with them, then it was like the traffic that we would get and the responses that I would get were overwhelming in a way, because people were wanting, okay, where can I find you? Where can I go use your services? So when you're not self-promotional and just really wanting to be there to just share your product and knowledge, you'll find that more people are interested and wanting to do business with you and want to find out more about you.
Yeah, you brought up some good points. Self-promotion doesn't get quite as far, although it has its uses, I'll admit. But it's more about engaging rather than be a broadcaster. You don't want to just push your message out there. You want to actually talk to people about your message, see what they're working on and what they're about. That's awesome.
For us, we saw, the pedals going to the metals, and it was funny because it's like I honestly didn't know the first thing about social media when I started CorpNet, but with a ton of studying and engagement and just, learning about it, reading books, I learned quickly, and I had a great support system that really helped me. Hey, you can't self-promote yourself. If you're going to sit there and just say, choose CorpNet to incorporate yourself, start a business with CorpNet, they're not going to want to come to you, because there's all these huge players out there that already have established themselves, so they're going to just take your content and go start their business somewhere else. But whereas if you just share content, then people are going to be like, hey, I like you, you're not pushing anything on me. Tell me a little bit more about yourself, and then you'll see the traffic comes to your site.
Yeah, and you appear to be more genuine and caring in that way as well. And so to move away a little bit from social media, we had another question from Kyle Mock, who is another entrepreneur himself. He's actually been on our shows before. He started athletesbrand.com for athletes apparel, made by athletes for athletes. It's actually pretty cool. A lot of it goes to charity. But his question for you is, when did you decide it's time to hire employees? Like, where were you financially? Where were you as far as how early on it was in the company? Was it later on in the company? When did you take that leap to go, hey, I need to get some bodies in here to help me out?
Great question. Hi there, Kyle. So in answer to your question, Kyle, for us, with any startup, and generally any startup that's starting a business, whether it's a product business or service-based business, I would say for the first 2 years, you're not going to be able to be profitable. For us, we weren't profitable, and we would just, the company is fully self-funded, and we would just pour money back into the business. But in answer to your specific question as to when I hired employees, I had milestones for myself. So we started the company with myself, my husband and business partner Phil, and an old employee of my previous company who, when she found out we were starting this new venture, she decided to join us. And I can get into that a little bit later too, about hiring old blood. But we started with 3 people, and our milestone that we set for ourselves is we're going to hire our first employee when we're at 20 units of orders. And we just set milestones for ourselves. And frankly, I follow the 80-20 rule with my company, meaning, have 20% of people do 80% of the work. Because if you're doing it rightly, and if you're delegating properly, and if you have the proper back-end automation in place, you don't really need too many employees and bodies to run your business. I hope that answers that question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's some great insight onto it there. I know that's something that a lot of people are curious about when starting their businesses. How can I afford employees? When should I get them on? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the one thing I will recommend to you is, and this is a huge mistake that I made in starting CorpNet, and once I started hiring actual support members, is we hired from ground up. And if I were to do it differently, I would probably put the key leaders of every department into place first and have them hire under. Because again, when we started our first company, again, we followed old models as to how we started our first company. And with our first company, it was easy to hire in a $10 to $15 an hour, employee, and then, train them and have them grow with the company. But in this day and age, it's so much about analytics and numbers, and you have to be so granular with all your numbers and the units that you bring in that you can't afford to make mistakes. So if you're thinking about hiring on help, if you're at that stage with your company, make sure you're hiring key members, and make sure you're not hiring somebody to fit the position, but you're hiring for that position, and it's that person meets the guidelines of that position.
That's awesome. So you mentioned everything being a lot more analytical and granular, and a lot more about numbers nowadays. So let me ask you about culture and the experience there at CorpNet or any other business that someone's starting. How do you keep focused and keep the place fun and engaging and have everybody loving to be there and still have that accountability and numbers, but still a great place to be? How do you balance the two, I guess?
I think, again, you have to have a culture in your business, okay? So my culture here, our culture here with CorpNet is you have to have fun, you have to be weird, okay? You have to be comfortable, okay? You have to be able to express yourself, but at the end of the day, you have to do what is expected of you and go beyond the call of duty, okay? I've been told to so many people that I'm not their cup of tea because I'm a hard ass, excuse my language. I expect a lot. I'm an A-type personality. I'm a small business owner, but guess what? I'm a small business owner because I want it done a certain way. I'm a control freak, but you know what? I haven't gotten to where I am today because I was laid back. I expect my team to work as hard as me. I'm here opening the office first thing in the morning, and I'm the last to leave the office. And that's the culture I've created here. It's a culture that every one of us, from top to bottom, from bottom up, we're all loyal to each other, okay? I don't treat anybody like a number. I don't treat anybody like, oh, I'm the CEO. My ass. It's not like that here. And excuse my language, okay? But this is me, But I'm here, and I'm one of them, and they're one of me. And we're here trying to create something that's bigger than us. And that's the culture that I'm trying to create here. And believe it or not, I don't want to take credit for this. Tony Say, the current CEO of Zappos.com, I'm a huge follower of his. I love Tony. I have read his book, Delivering Happiness, probably 10 times. And I love his mantra, his culture, his energy, and what he stands for. And that's where I take it from, and I try to implement it here with CorpNet. So it's about being a family. It's about working hard, but having fun at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, everybody feels appreciated and that they're contributing to the company and part of it, right? It feels like their company as well, to agree. They have a good stake in it.
Yeah, and to add to that, an example I should tell you is, today's a big day for us. Obviously we're getting a ton of traffic from this GoDaddy Hangout, and so everybody was here at 6 a.m. in the morning ready to roll. And, and this is what I'm talking about because they're excited because they see where the company is headed, and they see how much their leader is putting forth, and they want to put more effort in. So it's an inspiration. When your leader, when your mentor is out there working their butts off, your employees are going to work their butts off.
Absolutely, I can agree with that. So let's kind of carry back over to focusing on the leader and people looking to start the business as well. I see you had another question from our slide. Are you the type of person, if you're starting your business, that needs motivation and guidance from other people? Can you elaborate a little bit on that for us? Like, what do you mean, and how does that affect their decision?
So, for example, we at some point in our life, we all went to school. We went to college. We were given tasks, and we were given projects that we had to complete. Running your small business, it's not like that. You have to, again, find that motivation and guidance yourself. You have to be able to balance and juggle multiple duties at the same time. You're going to have to create that motivation from within. You're going to have to create that direction from within, because if you're running a small business and you have team members, a support group that's looking up to you, they're going to need direction from you. And although you're trying to inspire them and empower them to kind of go and take off on their own, there needs to be direction, and that direction has to come from you as a small business owner. So you need to be organized, you need to know what you're doing every day, and frankly, some people say, oh my God, I can't work from home. How do you do it? Well, I happen to work from an office, but whether it was in an office, in a garage, outside at Starbucks coffee house, anywhere, I can work, and I can't shut off. My iPhone is glued to me 24/7. I'm on email, text 24/7, but that comes with the territory of, running your own business, starting a business. And to add to that, another question you should ask yourself, Colby, if you want to really get into starting your own business is, can you tolerate working long, hard hours without getting paid for it? That's a huge question you need to ask yourself, because I'll tell you, literally, it was not until last year that my husband and I started taking a very, very minuscule paycheck from CorpNet.com. So you have to be able to put in 80+ hours a week if you want your business to be successful. So I don't want you to think, entrepreneurship equates to that 4-hour workday. Of course, there's hundreds of thousands of books out there, authors writing about, your 4-hour work week, your 2-hour workday. But the bottom line at the end of the day is, if whatever you put in, you're going to get out, So for us, for me personally, with CorpNet, I started this company coming and taking a huge risk, okay? Taking a chance. This is someone who was coined as the pioneer of the incorporation industry. My husband and I, there's tons of publicity out there. We were coined as the pioneers of the incorporation industry. So imagine, we come out again in 2009. People are laughing at us, and they're looking at us. And of course, everyone wants to see you fail. Believe it or not, They don't want to see us come back and enter this market. So you know what? I had to work 100 times harder than I ever did in 1997, because I had to prove to myself more than anybody that I can do this, So I would literally have 12-hour days. Sometimes I wouldn't see my kids. At the beginning, I had to travel tons and tons, going to different places to market my company. I still travel, but not as much. At the end of the day, the message I'm trying to share to you is that you have to be able to have the stomach to work long, hard hours without expecting to get paid for it. You have to have that motivation and guidance coming from within, and you have to be able to have the stomach and tolerate risk.
Yep. And like you said, you're constantly, on email, glued to your phone, doing everything. As a small business, you're not like a big corporation. You can't afford to have some, deals wait till the morning, or afford to say no to certain opportunities. You kind of have to jump at what you have when you have it presented to you.
Absolutely. The key is to be consistent with whatever you do, because consistency, organization, and when people see that in you, they're going to come back to you. Listen, we don't do a ton of advertising out there, okay? In fact, 3 months ago, I cut down my advertising budget from where it was to 1/10 of where it was, okay? And today, I still get the same amount of traffic, if not more, because of who we are, what we do, the raves we get from our clientele, and the services we provide out there. And the key to it is that we're consistent. We say what we do what we say, and we're ethical about it.
So when you cut your advertising, that's a good point, focusing on like what's working, what's not. Obviously, cutting your advertising didn't hurt your traffic or business. Was there another area that you just focused more on when you made that adjustment, or did you just kind of scale everything down?
No, actually, what happened was, this was a very, very, very huge area of kind of going back and forth with my husband, which is another thing is, if you're trying to start a business with your husband, business partner, make sure you're up for the task, because you got to put the egos aside, man. You have to put the egos aside, because at the end of the day, you got to go home and you got to sleep with the guy, okay? You got to parent with the guy, and that's what I do every night, And the bottom line is, Phil was pushing me, saying, you know what, you need to cut back on advertising, because what was working then is not working now, and you cannot pay to play. We got to keep engaging, and I'm telling you, Nelly, a ton of your traffic is coming from social media. So that's exactly what we did. I put my ego aside. I listened to my, I put my stubbornness aside, and I decided to listen to Phil. And he's right. He was right, because we cut down our ad spend by literally 1/10 to 1/10 of what we were doing. And not only we haven't seen sales or traffic decrease, but we've actually seen our sales go up, because we've obviously, put that budget towards more engagement, social media efforts, and really doing some of the more traditional PR that we weren't doing.
That's awesome. That's great to hear that focus, and I love the focus on social media, me being a lover of social media myself.
Yes.
So we do have another question, and I'm going to apologize in advance if I do not pronounce this right, but it's from A. Make Sayung. He wants to know, or she, what progress did you make in a year's time with your business? So what, from starting your business after the first year, how far along were you? Were you as far as you thought you were going to be, or less?
So we actually, another great question, and thank you for asking. So with our business, again, all of us, the starters of the company, the founders, myself and my husband and Amanda, who started the company with me, we were really, really, really A-type personalities. We really wanted to come out and launched this business with a huge, huge, huge boom, with a huge kind of launch date, and that launch date being July 1st. We came out, we had our videos all together, we had a bitchin' website really geared to that Web 2.0 era back in 2009, and we started. It wasn't perfection, and that's one of the tips that I always tell entrepreneurs who are starting out is you cannot have it perfect, okay? You have to go with it, and you have to launch it with whatever you have, and as long as it's functioning and you can start going live with it, then work out the kinks later. So we came out, we saw immediate progress, but we also saw mistakes, so had we not launched, we couldn't see what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. So
trial by error, kind of.
I'm sorry?
A little bit trial and error with it.
Yeah, a little bit trial and error, exactly. So what we did was, for example, we launched a site, and we came out with this model that we soon realized that really wasn't working for us. That was huge progress for us, because immediately we decided we had to completely change our packaging and pricing model. So that in and of itself was quick progress for us. And then, I would say within 6 months, we launched a new version of the website. Within a year after that, we came out with some really cool apps and widgets, to be able to get other affiliates and partners to market our products and services. So, again, as a tech company, as a company that's geared to helping small business owners and entrepreneurs, you're constantly trying to create, innovate, and come out with apps that are going to further streamline and make the small business owner's life much easier. And that's what we're all about. Just last year, we came out with our business information zone, which basically is geared towards any new or existing business owner who has a business and who wants to store all their documents in the cloud and have us manage it for them, so that if they walk into a bank, they can have access to that document at any time of the day. They can also get tax alerts, compliance alerts as to what's happening with their business, or if anybody is infringing on their name. So we're constantly coming out with new apps. We're constantly innovating. In fact, as we speak right now, I'm working on 2 new apps. So it's all about constantly staying ahead of the game and innovating, creating to make that small business owner's life much, much easier.
That's great. So you had some milestones. It's kind of more or less tangible, like it's going to be exactly like this in a year, but you have some ideas in mind if you're on the right pace or track after that time hits.
Exactly, Colby. And remember, we have a one-page roadmap, we have a one-page business plan, but the bottom line is, even if you write a business plan out as to what's going to happen down the line or down the road in a year, you don't know what's going to happen in a year, so you're going to have to be able to pivot at any time, and that again, goes with, being an entrepreneur, is being reactive, okay, but also making decisions based on data and analytics, because you can't just make decisions on the fly. Okay, you have to have your data and analytics in place to be able to, for example, A/B test, or to be able to pivot and change things on your website or within your business.
So speaking of analytics, just to backtrack a little bit, we had a couple questions. One from Christina. Again, thank you, Christina. And anybody else that has questions, feel free to keep posting them. We love them. Keep them coming in. And Robert Knowles. So I'm going to kind of combine the two. Robert wants to know what were your advertising, like where was it, Google AdWords, etc., and why did you cut the advertising so much? And what indicators or reports did you have to make that decision? And then Christina says, how much were you spending in those areas? So why make the decision and how much?
Okay, so at one point, we were spending over $150,000 a month just on paid search, okay? And as running numbers all day, looking at P&Ls all day, the general rule is, if you're going to spend money on advertising to cover your costs, both your fixed, your variable, and to be able to make a profit, you want to at least get a 3.5 return on your ad spend, okay, to make sure you're covering all your fixed and variables, and to make a slight amount of profit, So what was happening for us, and why I cut it, was because I was literally spending $1 on advertising, okay, and making 75 cents on it. So I was losing money, okay, because I was spending so much that I was getting actually a negative return on it. And frankly, our margins with our business in our industry are so low, and the amount of money that I pay per click on Google AdWords for the keywords that I was advertising on were so high that it wasn't making sense for us. So I decided to cut back, scale back, because our organic traffic, and us organically as a company, we were growing so rapidly, and we are growing so rapidly, that I didn't need to focus my efforts and my budget in that area. So now what I'm doing is I'm doing creative marketing. I'm still spending on marketing, but in other areas. A great one is, for example, Facebook, Another one is retargeting, So these are all the areas that I took away from just straight AdWords spend on search, and just pivoted it to other areas that I know I'm gonna get that return on my ad spend.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, we had another question that came in kind of from Robert as well, to do with financials as well. So he kind of mentioned when he read on your site that your other company was bought out and you never could retire comfortably, but you decided to take another risk and start another business that you were passionate about. So he wants to know, did you fund yourselves from the Intuit money that you got from that previous buyout? And was it still as big of a risk because you had some financial cushion behind you? And how would people that don't have some sort of financial cushion or money to start up going off, how is it different for them starting up the business?
Okay, so answer to Robert's question, we started CorpNet with obviously all the money and our savings that, you know, we had received from the sale of our first company. CorpNet is fully self-funded by my husband and myself, okay? And again, in answer to your second question as to what about those people who don't have the money and who don't have, you know, the tools and resources available to them that, you know, Phil and I had. Well, the bottom line is, when we started our first company in 1997, we didn't have a dollar to our name. In fact, I had $500,000 in student loans that I had to pay off, okay? And the idea, okay, and the excitement of taking a risk was so much more, you know, tasteful to me in starting my first company versus CorpNet, because with CorpNet, you're absolutely right. You know, it was a big risk, and there's a lot more headache, and I have a lot more fear and anxiety because I have a lot to lose, you know. And now I have 4 children, you know, 4 growing children, which are all in school, and, you know, them in private school. So there's a lot at stake right now, okay? But at the end of the day, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a risk taker, and I'm not going to fail. And that's my mentality. I'm a go-getter. And if you have the drive, if you have that vision, if you have that determination, and you know that you're doing something right, you're going to succeed, okay? And success will naturally flow. I hope that helps.
That's awesome. And to talk about the 2 different scenarios between your first company and the second, I'm going to ask, what was the best piece of entrepreneurial advice that you received starting your first company, and did you receive different advice starting your second one, and you know, how were they different?
Well, you know, Phil and I started again while we were in law school, and the advice that I would often get was obviously from, you know, my parents, and we didn't really have many mentors back then, so it was more of, you know, a trial and error for us. But one thing that I knew, and in watching my parents run their own companies, was that in order to be successful, you can't make money your goal, okay? You have to want to do something because you truly believe in the product, and you have to be consistent about it, you know? So with our first company, it was all a matter of putting in the hard, long hours, the efforts, and really being genuine and sincere with your clientele and going the extra mile, you know? But we really didn't have much, you know, guidance because it was our first company. And, you know, back then it was so easy in 1997. It's like literally we put up a 1-page website, we got our first client. You know, people would call our answering machine and put their credit card information on our answering machine, you know. So what we were providing, it wasn't really, it was a hot commodity because there wasn't too many services out there providing the same services as we were, you know. So the one thing that I knew that I had to do was just give really great customer service, deliver on time, do as I say as I do, promise and deliver what I promise, and just really, really be consistent in doing all that. With my second company, the first piece of advice that I got was, people are looking at you, you better do it better, and you better do it right because you can't fail, you know. And this was from one of my mentors, and I love him to death, and he is really, really inspires and pushes Phil and I every single day of our life. And he's hard, you know, and he'll come down hard on us, you know. And that's another thing that I want to, you know, make sure I share with you guys is, you know, if you're starting out and if you have a really kick-ass business idea, make sure you, you know, get yourself a mentor, or just, you know, align yourself with people and business owners that know a little bit more than you, that can guide you, because it's okay to make mistakes, but it's also okay to learn from others, because you can take a lot in and you can apply it to your business, and it may help down the road.
That's great. And just so everyone knows, we don't recommend leaving your credit card number on answering machines anymore.
No, not anymore. That's a good one.
We do have another question.
We don't store credit cards here.
It's good to know. So we have another question from Maxie Young. Sorry, hopefully I pronounced it better that time for you. Thank you for giving us that breakdown. They'd like to know, would you recommend hiring a company rather than taking a do-it-yourself approach to your analytics? So when you're reviewing all, traffic, marketing campaigns, spending, all that kind of stuff, do you think it's beneficial to have a third party do it, or would you rather do it yourself?
Hi Maxie, that's a great question. So for us, we decided to build the software and build the backend ourselves, so that we can track every call that comes in. We can track every sale that comes in. Again, it's a case-by-case scenario, and it really depends as to, where you are with your business. I mean, if you're just starting out, I would recommend aligning yourself with a third-party service provider that provides these services. There's a ton of resources out there, and if you don't happen to know one, direct message me and I can put you in touch with several good sources. But for us, because we're growing, we want to scale our company, and we are scalable, we decided that it was best for us to have our analytics in-house, and we created a software for it. Plus, my husband has a heavy tech background, and he really wanted it done in a way whereby truly we know where the call is coming from, what time, who the person is, what they're looking for, and which ad effort or social media effort they're connected to.
That's awesome. That's some great advice, and hopefully that helps you out with your decision, Maxie. So I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I just kind of want to go back to it. Let's talk about rejection. One of the slides you sent over to me is, can you handle rejection? And I'm going to assume that people starting their own business and small businesses in general will run into rejection, a few times throughout the startup. So how did you handle that? And let's talk about a little bit more on that quality.
Listen, it takes guts to be an entrepreneur. I work with entrepreneurs every day, and it's not easy, and you have your good days and you have your bad days. I get rejected all the time, and frankly, that's part of the business, Here's what happens for me is, I go out, I network, and I prepare myself that this guy or this gal is either going to accept me or they're going to say no to me, and as long as you're mentally prepared to get a rejection or a no, which in my opinion is a complete sentence, you're okay with it, So with entrepreneurship will come a lot of rejections. There'll be a ton of highs and a ton of lows, and it just goes with the territory. You cannot take that rejection and apply it to yourself and attach it to your self-esteem, You need to yourself know that, you have what it takes and you're going to do it. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And it's part of the game, Listen, I've failed many times. I've started and sold multiple companies, and not every company has been, a jackpot for me, But those failures have made my path into my successes, and they're a reason for my successes. So another, piece of advice that I'm going to share with you guys is that in order to succeed, you're going to have to fail, and we failed hundreds of thousands of times, both with my previous company, which we ultimately sold for a substantial amount of money, and we failed with CorpNet, and you're not going to get a perfect 100 on every effort you make, but again, that goes with the territory of starting and running your own business.
That's awesome. Yeah, so rejection is something that's going to happen. You're not always going to get 100% yeses, so be prepared for that. That's great. So let's talk about business and rejection. If I'm on the fence about starting a business, say it's 50-50, I'm not sure. I think I have a good idea, not entirely sure if I want to, go in. Do I, dip my toes in the water, or obviously you stated earlier you have to jump all the way in. What should people look at before deciding why should they either not start their business, or why should they take that dive and start their business?
So the answer to that would be you got to look at the idea itself, okay? You got to look at the market, you got to look at, are there other people doing what you're doing currently, okay? If they are, that should be even more fuel for you to be excited to want to start your business, okay? Because here's another piece of advice is if somebody's already doing it and it's working for them, well, listen, that should not be a deterrent for you to enter the market. It should be even more fuel for you to enter, because there's plenty of business to go around for everybody. Listen, I came out and I started CorpNet in an industry that was so saturated, and it was purely, it had become a commodity. I mean, we were marketing our services for $49 back then. Now we offer it for $79. We had a price increase, which, by the way, did not, again, affect any of my sales and actually increased my sales numbers. But, we came out in an industry that was highly saturated. And you know what? There is plenty of business to go around for everybody. So that's one, scenario, is that if you have a business idea and somebody's already doing it, that should be even more fuel for you to get in, do it, and do it even better, The other side of the coin is you have an idea and nobody's doing it. Well, you know what? Again, I would say go for it. If you have a backup, if you have some money saved up, or if you don't, there's tons of places that can give you unsecured lines of credit. There's the SBA. But if you truly believe in it, then you're never going to know until you do it and you just go for it. Because at the end of the day, it's either going to flop or it's going to be a ton of success. But you have to be able to believe in it. You have to be passionate about it. You have to love it. And you have to, in your head, tell yourself that, you know what, I'm going to go for this even though I'm not going to get paid for it. And if those questions, answers to your questions are all yeses, then the stars are all aligned and you should just go for it,
So confidence is key. That's the main thing.
Confidence is the key. You got to be able to go for it and just throw the towel in, and give it all you got.
That's awesome. So I'm going to kind of sideline a little bit from the entrepreneur conversation. We have a question from Robert Knowles. He just wants to know about your necklace, actually. Is that a autism puzzle pennant? He wants to know.
Thank you so much. I've been asked that a ton of times. No, it's not actually. However, I'm a huge advocate for autism. In fact, we started an autism franchise for one of our clients who started with us about 4 years ago and now is up to about 30 franchises, I believe. But this puzzle represents my life. It's a puzzle about my life because my life is a puzzle. And as an entrepreneur, I don't know where I'm headed next year, but I know I'm here.
There you go. And we're just about out of time, so I want to thank everybody about all your questions, your participation. I hope you got some great stuff about it. Nelly definitely gave some great insights and advice. Thank you again, Nelly, for coming on and sharing everything with us. I think you did a great job and gave some.
Colby. It's a pleasure being here.
So I just want to let everybody know too, if you're still feeling confident about starting your business, CorpNet and GoDaddy have an offer for you, 10% off CorpNet services and a free business consultation. So you can go to the address you see there, corpnet.com/GoDaddy, and they'll have a nice landing page for you there. Any other questions, feel free to continue to submit them on the event page. GoDaddy will be monitoring and checking those. I'm sure as well CorpNet people will be checking it out after the event as well. So thank you everybody again. Nelly, I'm going to let you say your goodbye.
Thank you so much for letting me join this GoDaddy Hangout, and I appreciate all the questions that were given to us through this Hangout. And again, if you need any type of advice or guidance as to how to start, protect, or market your business, feel free to reach out to us at corpnet.com. You can always direct message me at CorpNet Nelly, and I really thank you for this opportunity, Colby.
No problem at all. And for anybody not seeing the replies and the comments from the CorpNet page, we'll make sure that they're all shared out public so everybody can see all those answers. I know a few people said they might not be able to see some of the answers there, but we'll get that worked out for you guys. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you on our next Hangout. We've got some more coming up, so be sure to check out the GoDaddy Google Plus page for our next Hangout. Bye.